Is day 3. We did a hike alongside this valley. Saw those 4 rams are still up there from yesterday. And we looked about a mile down and found a bunch of ewes and lambs and 2 monster billy goats together. It's kind of funny looking. And we're gonna go into this basin now, this big one, and see what's in here. It's a good hike. This country is unbelievable, and we're having a lot of fun. And some crazy gnarly country here. Awesome experience. Pretty incredible. All right. What's the date today? Don't know. Okay, so I guess it is Monday the 20th here, which means it's Sunday the 19th there, back at home still. And it is 12:15 p.m. and it's 9:15 p.m. on the West Coast, North America. There we go. Got a couple kids screaming outside the window, but nothing too bad for recording. Whole pile of emails to share, and it's a mixed bag. There's gonna be some that are a little older and some that are recent. All right, not necessarily in the right order, so I'm gonna start from the bottom of the unread column in this notes section. This is titled Kentucky Sasquatch. Hey Steve, thanks for what you do. Please don't use my name. Very small county. Everyone knows where everyone lives. I don't want people coming out looking for trouble. They will find it, LOL. Okay, so then you put your name blank blank. I was born and raised in Kentucky, very close to the Mammoth Cave area. When I was 10/11 years old, I would sneak out of my window and go into the woods at night with a gun and was never scared of the dark and still ain't. I loved the night skies, carried a gun all my life and worked at nights a lot in the strip mines. I've seen and heard a lot of things, but this one night was different. But let me back up before I go here. In the early 80s, I was in my late 20s. There was a place I always wanted to explore, and a couple of the elders took me there. We had walked far, ended up into a bluff. We retired, and I sat down on the ground to rest. I had a knife, and I stuck it in the ground. It made a hollow-type sound. I moved some dirt back, and there was an orange-colored, large, oval circle. When I had stuck my knife in the ground, where I had stuck my knife in the ground, I had cracked it. I started peeling it back. It was about 2 inches thick and as light as a feather. The elders asked what I was doing, and I said, I don't know. I've never seen anything like this. What is it? They didn't know either. When I got it all off, I moved the dirt around, and my first swipe exposed a rib cage. One rib was broke, and a nick was out of the one above it. They were 3 to 4 inches thick and were huge. In the rib cage was a beaver tail lance head from the Adena period. It was the only piece in it, and it was right where the heart would have been at. Its body was laying in the fetal position facing west. The Indians had killed this creature and had mutilated it. They had cut the hands and the feet off, and the skull was missing except for the bottom jawbone, and it was broken in the middle. When it was buried, it was not by the Indians. I know how they bury, and this was buried by its own kind, because I had never seen the orange cover before, and have never seen it since. To be so thick, hard, and light, while withstanding maybe between 2,000 years or longer. I believe it was mutilated so the Indians wouldn't have to face it in their afterlife. The arm bones of the creature, from the wrist to elbow, was from the tip of my fingers to my shoulder, and I was 6'2" and weighed 290 pounds. The jawbones, I could fit my head inside it and have 2 inches space on each side of my head. To make a long story short, with its feet and head added, it would have been well over 9 feet tall. I put every piece back in the hole and properly covered whatever it was. And needless to say, the elders told everyone they knew about it. 30 years later, an elder historian came to me and asked me if I would take him there. I'd never been back to that area, but I remembered and took him there to study and take pictures. And sadly, it had been dug into by somebody, and there's nothing left. I moved off for work and met my wife and was living away from here around 11 years. And due to my family's sickness, we moved back here in 2000 and bought a small 80-acre farm. We raised beef, cows, horses, and had 4 of the meanest protective dogs around. There was going to be a meteor shower, and it was about 1 a.m., and we went out to watch for meteor showers. We were out looking, and suddenly we heard the loudest, different scream/holler coming from the back end of the farm. I've heard bobcats, bears, mountain lions, and plenty other night animals, and this was not one of them. You could feel it in your chest like a loud bass at a concert. It kept coming closer, but stayed in the edge of the woods. You could tell it walked on 2 feet by the stomping of a 2-foot beat on the branches breaking underneath it. While hollering the whole time, it was coming closer. All 20-plus cows we had came running towards us and gathered under the security light, scared, and all the horses came running from different fields to us. The 4 ferocious dogs we had were quiet, scared, and gathered around us in a protective way. My wife asked me, "Have you got your gun?" Because I always carried one, but I walked out of the house without it, and that's the last time. And she said, "Don't you think you need one?" Well, here she comes carrying about 4. She said, "I thought we needed a couple." She was shaking inside and out, and by this time it was on the ridge right behind the house. It let out a hellacious scream that vibrated the whole inside of our bodies. We had never heard anything like it, but we knew exactly what it was. And as it traveled through, the dogs were letting out loud, strange howling sounds like they were giving warning. You could hear it. You could hear the way it headed because we could hear the screaming of it and the warnings of dogs ahead for about 2 miles. Our farm sits between 2 creeks close to the Green River and about 20 minutes to Mammoth Cave Park area. We were pretty tore up for about a week, so we hadn't been out, and we were thinking we better check on the electric fence because that might have been what could have heard it. We were constantly fixing fence due to deer running through it. We have a place on the back of our farm where the dead cows go, and while I was checking the fence, I thought I would see if anything was left of the cow that had died a couple weeks earlier. Coyotes usually clean them up. I went over to it, and the pelvis bone had been split. And when I looked closer, there was a tooth stuck in the bone. Oh shit, I read this before. This is an interesting email. I remember this. I'm going to finish it. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I did pull it out and still have it. We now think the screaming was because he had broke a tooth off in the bone, because that is where the screaming all started from. Plus, I'm sure getting shocked by the electric fence didn't help any. You could tell that it was in pain and angry by the breaking of the limbs and the hollering as it went through. I took the tooth to my dentist, not telling him the story, and he had no idea. Said it wasn't a dog, but it looked human, but too big for a human because of the size of the tooth and the roots of the tooth. He said it was like a human tooth, the one between the eye tooth and the canine tooth. We never told anyone for years. People would call you crazy, but I've talked to about 4 people, and they have had similar situations. A family and their friends were run off from backwoods camping around a large pond not far from here. A couple of years before we had our encounter, they had to leave everything and come back at daylight to get their stuff. I can't send the tooth off because people have tried with other native and odd items and they never got them returned back from local universities or other places. They always seem to get lost or they don't remember you. See, I'm so glad I found your show. It's good to know there is others that have experienced similar events. It's helped us to be aware of their ways while in the woods. And they are not apes. They are intelligent and more human. I know this is long, and my wife and I have had other occurrences recently, but I'll text them later. Thanks, Steve. Glad I could get this. Glad I could tell this and not be laughed at or looked at like I'm crazy. I have no reason to ever lie. There's several things I don't like. Liars and thieves are 2 of them, and I'm neither. We love to explore the woods, either by foot or horseback. I've come across some amazing places. And from that night forward, my wife never went out on the farm or yard again without her gun. Thanks, Doug. There you go. And I believe we did get the picture of that tooth later on. Some people squawked it was from a cow, and some didn't. But how's that for an interesting find? How about if we could have a look at that jawbone? And I wonder who has it now, right? Who's got it now? Now, what is this? This is from Scott Carpenter. Unread one, I believe. The late, great Scott Carpenter. This is titled The Nature of the Sasquatch. Make sure I can read this. Okay, the first few paragraphs was between Scott and I believe, and here's a part I think he's talking about how he filmed these items, these beings in the forest where he lived. So he carries on telling me, I am telling you, the, quote, back trail, end quote, is the deal if you want to see what's going on. Trust me on this one. They are following you and doing the hide and peek thing behind you. This will at least let you know how many are where. I used to just use a Sony Handycam strapped to my shoulder, but I upgraded to a gimbal stabilizer and 4K GoPro style camera. I'm here to tell you it's freaking amazing, like production quality. The rig, along with the booster and batteries, only cost me about $200. I just put it on and do my thing, hike, hunt, or whatever. I'm just bait nowadays. I have wore it on the last 3 hiking trips and have caught the white Sasquatch twice now. The 4K is amazing. He knows I'm wearing the camera and he stays back about 75 yards, but I busted him twice. Of course, the quality is not good enough to post, but good enough to let me know he's back there and actively following me around when I'm in the woods. I'll attach a picture of what the rig looks like. I know you're hesitant, but considering it, given the fact that the ones around you have never seen you do it, and if you strap it to your backpack strap, it looks like just another piece of equipment. You might be surprised what you catch. And like a trail cam, let you know how many are around you. I think you'd be the perfect guy to do this, and the approach of you coming at this thing is not even related to Bigfoot research is perfect. Doing a fact base, this is what we know, this is what it is, this is what it looks like, this is how it lives. It is real. You're not crazy if you have encountered one, etc. I think there is a great need for the word to get out. They exist, and don't freak out after you see one. It's simple. The bear live here, the deer, the mountain lion, and the Sasquatch people. Take the proper precautions when going out in the wilderness, hiking and hunting, etc. You're definitely going to be able to reach so many people, and the message needs to get out. I've not gotten into this yet, but these things can be sexually aggressive towards women. I have had more than one occasion to talk to a hysterical woman on the phone that had one in front of her with a huge erection on, displaying himself to her for an obvious offer. No one wants to talk about this or deal with it except me, it seems. So many women have romanticized these things and regularly put themselves into direct danger trying to have an encounter. One woman had one chase her and her husband out of the woods after they sneaked and had sex while hiking. This large 12-foot Sasquatch started trailing them as they ran back to their car. He had his head back, sniffing the air as he approached them. So this is no joke. And how many get taken we don't know about, that end up spending their lives as captured mates? Sounds crazy as hell, but I'm afraid it happens. This is the burden I bear, trying to warn as many as I can. This is not something to be messed with. These things are not recreational activity. This is serious shit. Getting off my soapbox now, I could go on with story after story. As I have said, you can count on me to help you all I can. And by the way, the video of the white Bigfoot is pretty good. People have no trouble seeing it for sure, so if you want to use a clip of it, I can send it to you. I think there are many very good photos out there. Most just don't share. I hope they don't scream at you either. Just talk to them out loud when you get up there. They seem to respect you when you show them some. I have talked to the ones that come around me, and I'm frank and direct. Trust me, the message will get through. I will even wave goodbye to them when I know ones have been watching me and I leave the area. They mess with me, so I will mess with them. You mentioned that you might be in Atlanta this spring. That is not too far away from me here in Tennessee. I'd be glad to drive down and meet you for coffee. You may be busy, but I thought I'd just put it out there. I've attached a picture of the rig I used to give you an idea how it looks. I added the foam to keep it from rocking back and forth as much as I walked. Too much as I walked. Also, to give you an idea of what I was talking about, being able to catch the white one way back, I've attached a couple of still captures of it following me way back on the trail. It's effeminately a blob squatch, but I knew what it was. Good luck on your hunt. Be safe, Scott. Excuse me. There you go. You guys have seen all his photos and videos, I'm sure, by now. They're on his page. If you want to go check them out, you have it. Yeah, he was really trying to convince me to put on a camera facing backwards behind me so I could record what's in the woods around me when I'm in the middle of nowhere. And I just said to him, I'm like, no, I'm good. I don't need to know. I don't need it ruined for me. Not ruined for me, but I'm already challenged enough sometimes when I go by myself. I don't need any more. It's like, I know you guys are here. I'm here. Just leave me alone. I'll leave you alone. So when I do that, with sneakily strapping a camera on my back to try to sneak in a video or picture of him, would that be busting my end of the deal? You know what I mean? Maybe. This next email is titled, Was This a Bigfoot? Recent email. Hi, Steve. Love your videos. Thanks for listening to what some people think are impossible stories. My name is Diane Freeman. This one is one I experienced when I was about 15 years old in the late 1970s. In northwest Wisconsin on the Lake of Long Lake, Wisconsin. I was walking with my friend around 10 o'clock at night down a long dirt road that was the boat landing road. We had walked to the end. There was no one around, and we sat there for a while staring out at the lake. On one side of the road was a swamp, heavily wooded immediately right off the road. On the other side of the road were cabins, but it wasn't very busy that time of year. And as we were walking back, my friend and I were talking. I started hearing a noise about 20 yards into the swamp. It seemed like something on two legs was paralleling us, walking with us. I listened to it for a while, and as this road was about a mile long, there were no streetlights. It was dark out, only the light of the moon. I finally whispered to my friend to stop walking. As we stopped, it stopped. Then I said, walk. And it walked. And as I said, it was very swampy, and no man could be walking in there without a lot of trouble. This thing hardly made a noise. I explained to my friend what was going on, so she started paying attention. Every time we stopped, it stopped. I started getting very scared. When we came to a T in the road, we're at Blacktop. The swamp ended at the road. We took a hard left and ran the whole way back to our cabin. We never told anybody what happened. and we really didn't talk about it, but has stayed with me all these years. I'm soon moving back to the area, and I'm excited but nervous. Thanks for listening, Diane. Excuse me. Okay, Diane, we'll keep us posted. And, you know, if there's people living around there, maybe the local corner store, coffee shop, people work around there, if you bring up the topic with a dead serious look on your face, you're probably going to get some feedback. I'll bet ya. Stay safe out there, Diane. Appreciate your email. Here's another one titled Infrasound. Hello, Steve and family, and the How to Hunt family as well. I hope this finds you all well. Not that that doesn't seem nearly impossible given world events. I was watching one of your recent videos in which you questioned how someone knows they're using infrasound. You asked how they know. Were they in a room having the Sabe explain to them they were projecting terror, absolute dread, etc.? My question is, does it really matter? Well, let me answer that right away. To me, it matters. What the part that matters to me, I think a lot of people get confused of, they're not picking up, is the part that challenge. No, how should I say this? The part that concerns me is the part where people play the echo, play the parrot. People just automatically echo what another person says or dictates without any looking into it, without any confirming for themselves. They just echo it out there. I heard it on the internet and I echoed it out, and I'm saying it with all confidence and dictating it to the people. You know what I mean? Does it upset me? No. And when I caught a comment the other day, like my phone right now has the pop-ups on the front screen wherever the phone's laying. Notifications, I guess, from various pages. And the odd time I grab it and there's something on the front and it says, somebody said, you obviously haven't looked into what the military can do with direct energy weapons and infrasound. And for what the challenging part about the comment section is when I'm talking, when I'm typing back, 100%, well, 99% of the time, you have to put my tone that I have right now, my delivery that I have right now. I'm not confrontational. I'm not being condescending or being a dick. I'm answering just as the way I speak every single day. Except the odd time I've caught the odd absolute dirtbag on there and then I let him have it. But that's very, very rare. And it seems and it's another reason why I try to stay away from the comment section, because it only takes about 4 or 5 comments and then people start insulting each other. It's so weird. Anyway, getting back on track. Does it really matter? Yeah, it matters to me that people just echo what other human beings say. You know what I mean? The military uses energy weapons, etc., to manipulate us, sound weapons. I get it, but it's not the topic at hand here. You know what I mean? When people, somebody else said, oh, well, elephants and lions, they don't direct at us because they're not scared of us. Well, to anybody who might think that, you might want to get on the YouTube and Google up elephant or lion hunts. All right? They're scared of us, trust me. We kill them. People hunt them and kill them and shoot them. They're scared of us. If there's, it's kind of almost, I shouldn't say silly, but come on. They can do that to us, but they choose not to because they're not scared of us. If somebody put me in a cage, which would be a zoo, I would be lambasting every human I could with dread and terror in their soul via infrasound every single day I was behind those bars. All right? But that's not the topic either. The topic is, does it really matter? Yes, it does. If we want to get down to what's going on, we have to stop giving people in certain single or couple individuals that pedestal where they get to dictate to us what's going down. So like I said, and nobody's answered that question for me yet, who's the person? Who was the original person who coined that the Sasquatch or Sabe people are using, quote, infrasound, end quote, to inflict absolute terror, dread, and dooming death into our souls at will? That's the question. And that question has never been answered once yet. See what I mean? Because I think everybody's just playing the echo. So who coined it? Who found out? Who gets to stand there on the podium and tell us, well, it's infrasound. Moving along. Sorry for the interruption. So yeah, it does really matter. We already know that they are something beyond our understanding. After listening to your reads for several years and doing research of my own, I'm inclined to believe that they are definitely Nephilim. I'm the one who wrote in about a year ago and said they came from Satan's imagination, just to jog your memory. Anyway, given the fact that they are not on our side, does it make a difference how they inflict such things? Well, there's another side of the coin. There's a lot of people here that are going to argue with you and say, I've had nothing but good experiences, or they protected me, or they helped me, or they walked me out of the woods when I was a kid. You know what I mean? When the darkness comes, they're the ones that will be at our doors trying to make us believe they are a loved one. And when the door is open, it's over. Consider the increase in sightings of late. They are increasing in number, which tells me things are coming very soon. Well, that's debatable too. We have the internet now. We didn't have it years ago. The internet puts us in instant contact with people around the globe. So that can explain why we would think they're increasing in number. That's a bold statement too for a human to say they are increasing in number. How do you know? Do you know what the previous number was? What's the number today? And what's the number they increased by in the last 2 years? Do you know what I mean? God gave Satan reign over the world. He gave us a choice. We can live for God or we can live for the world, but we can't live for both. And when that darkness comes, I do not want to be trapped out in it. The thought of what will suffer is terrifying on its own, but knowing it will happen in my lifetime, I can't describe the sick fear I have for my grandkids. Yeah, I don't know. Don't take the bait. Try not to take too much of the bait. There's a lot of good out there, and as long as you do what you love to do and try to focus on that while learning about everything else on the side, you might not be so terrified. We've had an increase here near our home, and a neighbor said his dog was acting strangely. Soft growl, but hiding. When he opened the door, he said the smell was overpowering and awful, and it disappeared as quickly as it came. I've also noticed an increase in feeling like the ravens are watching us. They're nowhere around. And then all of a sudden, there are 2 or 3 in the same position every time, squawking from nearest to furthest. And they'll make you crazy if they can, irritating. But as soon as I say softly, "Get thee behind me, Satan, be gone from me, unclean spirits, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus Christ, the Son of the living God," they leave. Coincidence? I don't think so. My dogs wouldn't come outside with me, and when I closed the door to grab some wood, I got a strong feeling that I should go no further. Very unsettling. And there have been 3 times that I was up at the overlook with my dog, just parked and thinking, when all of a sudden, Ellie, my dog then, stared intently out the window. Her eyes followed something up and over my car, following it over the cliff. Whatever it was, pushed the back end of my car down a good 1.5 feet on the passenger side. 3 times that happened. At first I thought it was a cougar. But the way she stared, I'm thinking not. It's not the first time I've had that feeling, a feeling that pure evil is near. My son had it too on the same night. And that was about 2 years ago. But lately it's gotten to where I'm afraid to go outside after dark. I'd like to know what we're going to be up against. But at the same time, I feel like these are nothing to mess with. I've never seen one, nor do I have any desire to see one. The experiences we have had are more than enough. My whole life, whenever we're out in the woods and I hear an owl, I've always been able to keep it talking. Now I wonder if any were truly owls. We must be vigilant in prayer, repentance, everything pleasing to God, because it will only be by His grace that we will endure. I believe we are living in the end of apocalyptic times. The final trumpet is sounded. Take care, and God bless everyone. Please pray for mankind. Kathleen, I hope that you can find some happiness and comfort and not have too much focus on the dark side. As long as you give that dark side, dark thoughts, the energy, you're going to feed it. It's going to manifest, going to get bigger, more real. That's what I tell people for years now. The thoughts you keep in your mind come to fruit. I've proved that for myself many times, and I try to encourage people to take a look at things from that angle. Think about it. When you think about darkness, negative, misery, fright, scared, hell coming, and you keep thinking about that, it's coming. Just try chucking it on the other side of the coin. I've done it lots of times, especially this past handful of months. I'll wake up in the morning and I'll say to myself in the morning, I'm going to be the most happiest MFer in the whole world today. I'm going to have the happiest day ever. I'll say it 3 times out loud and off I go. And it works, believe it or not. Try it. Now, excuse me. Another new one. More from South Africa is the title of this email. Hi again, Steve. A story from my hiking buddy. One of my hiking buddies, Cameron, is a real outdoors kind of guy. Over 6 foot and around 220, strong as an ox, pro MMA fighter, and does not scare easily. I know him as a guy that can joke around, but when it comes to the stories of this nature, he won't embellish the facts. He told me of a hike he did with 2 of his buddies, Craig, a clean-cut, crew-cut kind of guy, and Craig's brother, Raymond, an average build guy with a rather well-advanced dreadlock hairstyle. The hike was to Marble Baths Caves, located in a secluded valley in the central Drakensberg, around 2017. During the evening or very early hours of the morning, Cameron was woken up to what he described as a firm hand grip on his ankle, almost as if someone was steadying themselves whilst navigating the darkness to go for a pee. When he peeked out of his sleeping bag, he saw what he thought was Raymond in a crouching position silhouetted at the opening of the cave looking outward. He said he thought it was Raymond, as he distinctly saw the bushy dreadlock-style hair down his back. Cameron then got an indescribable wave of fear come over him, and he just wrapped up again and continued to sleep. Like when you're a kid, if you can't see the boogeyman, he can't see you. When all 3 surfaced later that morning, Cameron said to Raymond that he almost shit himself when he was grabbed. And that in the future, can he just put the lamp on to see where he's going? To which Raymond looked puzzled and said that he had not left his sleeping bag since the time they all went to sleep. Craig, too, had not left his sleeping bag. Either there was a lone, human-sized baboon that didn't bother to rummage through their food supplies, Raymond is a sleepwalker, or there are shy, unresearched beings that share the planet with us. Many of the mountain guides and rangers will not speak of their strange encounters when questioned, until they see you are a genuine believer and share experiences of your own. Then you can hardly get them to shut up. Regards, Greg. And P.S. If you ever come to South Africa and find yourself in the Durban area, give me a shout. I'd love to chat face to face and maybe show you around. You know what? I'd take you up on that in a second. And I almost went there a few years ago by myself, and I was going to go around the planet. And I was even talking to a shark diving operation to pre-book my chance to jump in a cage with the white sharks, but they said that it was actually not that good of a time of year and the water wasn't clear. And then to top it off, I had another guy who I knew from Safari Club International. He's actually the publisher of a massive magazine. Great guy. And he's from Johannesburg, Joburg. And he made me kind of nervous because he goes, "Oh yeah, mate, you come and stay at my place in Joburg. We got a guest cottage out back. You can stay there." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, how's the crime around your place?" And he goes, "Oh well, it's touch and go. Usually pretty good." And we did get invaded, and me and the wife got pistol whipped last year. Like, what? I'm sure it's not as bad as what we get fed via the mainstream, but I'll tell you what, if you want to Google up some crazy ass shit, you just check out crime in South Africa, right? I'm not saying this stop you from going there, but it's definitely a concern on your brain when you Google that shit up and see what's been going on around there. But aside from that, and I will make my way there eventually, but when I do, I'll get a hold of you for sure. For sure I would. Appreciate the email, man. Appreciate the email. Next email is titled, "I just want to tell you what I saw." Okay, let her rip. You found the right place. Hi, Steve. My name is Stacy, and I've seen Bigfoot twice. The first time was in 1984 while I was riding to the bus stop 10 miles from home in the early morning in Decatur/Rome, Texas, where I grew up. It felt like I was being watched. So I looked to my right and I saw a shadow keeping pace with me through the pastures. It was following me for 6 miles and just watching me. And at one point I stopped and so did it. It crouched when I stopped and would stand back up when I took off. When I was maybe 1 mile from the bus stop, it was gone. I've kept that to myself for a long time. And back in 1998 in Vernon, Indiana, I had a feeling to look out my front door. And about 50 feet from my home, this one stood about 8 or 9 feet tall. He looked confused. I'm sure he knew I saw him. He just looked around and started walking towards the road. One foot stepped on one side of the road. The second step landed in the middle of the road, and the third one was on the other side. He went up to the fence that kept cows in and stepped over like it was nothing. Recently, I saw shimmering on 3 different days that reminded me of the movie Predator. It happened 3 days in a row back in September 24. I feel them at times when they are near, but I don't see them. They leave me alone. Don't ask me why, because I couldn't tell you. I've told a few people, but they laugh and say there is no place for them to live without being seen, so I stopped saying anything. People believe in UFOs, but not this, or Dogman. I don't get it. Thanks for sharing, Stacy. Doesn't matter. You know what? At this stage of the game, I just call people that try to challenge an experiencer. They're just speed bumps. Speed bumps in our way. At this stage of the game, anything they want to know, they can look into on their own time and answer their own questions if they were truly interested. So, when somebody tries to say to me, prove it. You know what? Get off your greasy, fat ass and go dig for yourself. Get out of my face. Get out of my way. You're a speed bump. The door's wide open. If you want to catch up to the rest of us, the door will be open, but on your way. Now, what's this one? This is titled One of Your Vids. Appreciate that email, by the way. Keep us updated during your ride, if you would. Next email is titled One of Your Vids. I have been as you say, a knower since I was 10, but I've never had any experiences. I live in the Bay Area, California. I've been watching you for about 1.5 years. You pulled over and started reading emails, and about 1 minute into the first one, you stopped. You said your hair stood on end and something didn't feel right. To your right behind you, I seen little white things that looked like small ghosts. Watching/playing, the best way I can describe it. You rock. John. Okay, John, what I don't know, what video was it and what minute did that go down? Because I haven't a clue. I would never have a freaking clue what video you're referring to. So email back to me if you know, and we'll let our sleuths that are interested in that shit go at her. This next email is titled Bigfoot Appendage on Display. Hey Steve, have you ever seen this picture? Or gone to visit the museum where this Sabe toe is on display? It was supposedly found in 1623, severed by a bear trap near Tacoma, Washington. Supposedly DNA since been analyzed and it came back as an unknown species. At some point, the toe is donated and put on display in room 222, case 52 in the west wing of the Moody Institute of Science. That kind of sounds funny though, right? In the Moody Institute of Science/Science. No, that's not the name. I can't say if this is legit or not, but it's worth looking into. Be blessed, Matthew. Okay, let me have a look at that from a distance. Now, from what I know about decaying flesh, what I've seen with bear claws, wolf claws, the hooves of mountain sheep, moose and deer and everything I've had to skin out all the way to the nails, the size of that, the little tuft of fur on it. If I had to make a comment on this for real, that's about as fake as fake could ever be. That's just me. There's nothing there that looks really authentic to me at all. Nothing. But I'll share it. Who knows? I don't know. I wasn't there. I never held it in my hand. But if I had to just look at this picture and somebody say, hey, man, do you think this is real? I'm going to look at that picture myself. And I'm going to go, at this stage of the game, looking at that, what I know about animal parts and different stages of decay, that is absolutely not real. Just me, though. Thanks for the share, man. Okay, we got another one here. Fairly long one. Not too long, I don't think. I don't even know how long I've been sitting here. Man, it feels good to feel better, but at the same time, it makes you feel kind of grumpy that your first week of holiday, most of it is spent from jet lag, and then all of a sudden you're sick. You got a bug. But I'm good now. Just a little tired, but I'm good now. This email is titled, Puzzle Piece ? Update to my story. Sweet, I love updates. Hey, Steve. This email's been sitting in my drafts folder since May of 24, and after much back and forth, I've decided it's time to finally send it. Right on. First off, you often say, why don't we spell things the way they sound? Well, they call me Strings with a Z. Ha! My stage name is Strings Theory, and I guess we'll call this email Strings Theory to keep it fitting. All right, man. To give the Howd Hunt family a bit more insight into who I am, here's the short version of my journey so far. I dropped out of high school early, deciding to stop my indoctrination after the 8th grade, a decision I have no regrets about. Oh, lucky you. As a kid, I spent most of my time exploring the woods. It was my escape from the family drama at home. Me too. By age 11, my exploring turned into partying and raising hell. Holy shit, age 11? I experimented with drugs, but fortunately it was nothing like the heroin and fentanyl epidemic we see today. And after surviving my chaotic younger years, I gave 8 years of my life to the government, including 3 deployments to Iraq. After my last deployment, I worked for the Department of Homeland Security for a time, but it was also during this period that I went through a divorce, a tough chapter that ultimately pushed me to grow. While in the service, I experienced a few things that'll stick with me. One memorable moment was during training in Panama. A group of us were deep in the jungle led by a guide who claimed to be a chief. He pointed out various medicinal plants along the way, and one of them, he said, could cure cancer. And at the time, as a young, indoctrinated adolescent, this revelation completely shocked me. It made me question what else might be hidden from us by the powers that be. Another strange occurrence happened while I was on a forward operating base, FOB, along the border of Iraq, just prior to the start of the war on March 10th, 2003. At the time, I was the comms sergeant in charge of communications for my team, having been cross-trained in that MOS. Our little transport bus had broken down, and with my team spread out in the 2 to 3 mile increments over a 10-mile radius, I was worried someone's SINGARS, SINCGARS, radio might die, cutting them off from the TOC. So I loaded my truck with about 60 pounds of batteries and hiked to their positions. Oh, I loaded my ruck, not truck. I loaded my ruck with about 60 pounds of batteries and hiked to their positions. When I reached one of my teammates, I quietly announced myself at his post to avoid getting shot. We stood there smoking and bullshitting, maintaining light discipline, when I looked up and saw a flat, black, metal-like object. It was massive, big enough that it felt like I could raise my hand and glide my fingers along its surface. The strange thing, despite the windy night, this object was completely silent. It wasn't moving fast, just gliding overhead. It was one of those moments that made me question everything I thought I knew. My time in the service brought other odd experiences too, from witnessing that silent craft to watching our Patriot missile systems accidentally, air quotes, shoot down a Royal Australian Air Force plane, tragically killing all on board. What pushed me to finally send this email was your episode from May 22, 2024. New live guest and an eyewitness shares with me an incredible and dark story. When one of your emailers mentioned their teeth falling out shortly after encounter with Sabe, it struck a nerve. A little over a year ago, I was diagnosed with a 2-inch tumor on the right side of my brain. It came out of nowhere. Discovered after a car accident, led to a full body scan. I asked the doctors what could have caused it, and they said, tumors like mine typically develop over many years. But here's the thing. I don't trust most doctors, as it's clear the system is driven by profit over care. So, I take their words with a grain of salt. So do I, especially North American. In North American medicine, I'm almost terrified of it. What really puzzles me is how this tumor seemingly appeared out of nowhere. I had a couple of brain scans before my encounter with Sabe in 2017, and nothing like this was ever mentioned. Could it be related to radiation or some other energy, as that emailer described in their encounter? I don't know, but I figured this could be a puzzle piece that someone out there might need. For context, and to rehash my encounter that you have read before from my different email, this happened at Carter Caves, Kentucky, while camping with my family. It was already dark, and my son, who was around 7 or 8 at the time, needed to pee. I grabbed my headlamp and took him toward the wood line. While we were standing there, I noticed what I thought were 2 glowing green reflectors. And at first, my brain tried to rationalize what I was seeing. Something I think happens to many during these encounters. But when those reflectors blinked, my fight or flight response kicked in. Having seen and experienced certain things during my time in the service, I didn't feel fear in the traditional sense, but I also knew fighting wasn't an option. The outline of the creature was massive, easily 9 feet tall and impossibly wide, far beyond anything I've ever seen. And after I got my son back in the tent, I told my wife what I saw, and strangely enough, we all went to sleep like it was nothing. Man, that is such a bizarre reaction that goes down, and it has been emailed in so many times. It's absolutely silly. It is such a pattern. But what a bizarre pattern. What a bizarre reaction to me. Thinking back, I believe my brain was in active denial at the time. Most of the experiences throughout my life, I always relied on music to help me through, which is why there is strings theory. After finding out about my tumor, I decided to start publishing all the songs I can that I've ever wrote over the years. It is, after all, my form of therapy. I write about the struggles people face today and expose the lies we've been told by the so-called people in control. My songs tackle topics like corruption, hidden truths, and the way society keeps us in the dark. If you'd ever like to use one of my songs for an intro or ending, let me know. I'd be happy to send you a master copy of it. It'd be an honor to contribute to your platform in that way. Thanks for being a voice for so many of us, Steve. Your platform means a lot to those who are searching for the truth and trying to make sense of the world. Take care, Strings. Okay, man, appreciate that email big time. I'm glad you survived the war. It makes me sick how many people's lives have been lost in wars. The most recent ones especially, because they've all been fought for money and businessmen. Prove me wrong. Appreciate that offer too. And keep me updated again when you get a chance if anything else comes down the pipe you feel should be shared. Next, my encounter with this damn thing when I was 8 years old. Steve, I've attached what happened to me when I was camping in the Great Smoky Mountains with my family when I was around 8 years old. I'm now 56 and have lived with this shit for 48 years. So yeah, I have a lot bottled up inside me. Never stop what you're doing. I would follow you to hell and back. You have no clue how much you're doing for all of us who know these damn things are here, and the shitwads who say we are stupid and clueless. We know the monsters are real. Thank you so much, man. Sincerely, Jeff Chalfa. All right, I got to find this attachment. Give me a sec. All right, here we go. Steve, I live in Virginia, and we are 3 hours from the Great Smoky Mountains. When I was around 8 years old, so this is about 1971. I'm 56 now. I went with my family to the Smoky Mountains, and we went camping. The campground we ended up in was kind of off the beaten path and up in the timber. There were other families there, but not a lot. And later in the evening, the other kids and I were out passing football. There was another guy around my age, but the rest were girls ranging from 8 to around 12 or 13 years old. It was around dusk, so the light was fading away, but not enough that we couldn't see the football, which was orange, so we could see it. And as we're passing the football around, and one of the girls threw it way over my head and it went into the woods. The campground was surrounded by the woods, so we were in there pretty deep. I went after the ball, which had gone about 15 to 20 feet into the woods and down the embankment. I remember getting the football, and when I looked up about 20 to 25 feet on down the embankment, I saw what at first looked like one of those wooden statues you see at a tourist location, etc. I wondered why the statue would be there until it moved, and the rest of this thing stepped out from behind the tree it was beside of, and we stared at each other for 4 to 5 seconds. I've never seen anything as humongous as this thing. I remember it had some gray around its chest area, but never really got a good look at its face. But it was huge. I was frozen and couldn't move. It moved so quickly back behind the tree, it almost disappeared. It was that quick. I ran as fast as I could back and told everyone that King Kong was in the woods. That is the only thing that I can say that it looked like. The adults went and looked in the woods, but it was starting to get dark, and they told me I'd probably seen a bear. This wasn't a bear. This was a monster. The only person that believed me was my dad, and we talked about it just a few times when I grew older, and he believed me. My dad was a World War II Navy vet, and like your grandfather, the best generation this world has produced. I lost my dad when I turned 17 years old due to a massive heart attack. So, your site, Steve, is the first place I've ever found that I felt as if I could share what happened to me and no one would make fun of me or call me stupid. You know, fuck those people. That's exactly how the hell I feel about it. I've dealt with the people that ridiculed me and said I was full of it or didn't know what I saw, and trust me, when someone sees one of these monsters, you never forget it. Everything, especially for an 8-year-old. It changes. I knew that monsters existed all my life. I really didn't know anything at my age about Bigfoot, so King Kong is the only thing I compare it to until I knew more about these things. I grew up in Virginia, so I live in the woods 24/7, and every time I go into the woods, this memory is sitting there, and I'm always on high alert, period. I thank God for you and your channel. This is the first place I've ever felt I can tell what happened to me, and you guys get it. Damn, man, I have tears in my eyes because I've lived with this all my life. Anything I can ever do, please let me know, and thank you, Steve, for everything you're doing. Sincerely, Jeff Chalfa. Jeff, anything you could have done for me, you just did it. You shared your email and your truth here, man. I'm glad you found us. Glad you found us. And you know what? If you got anybody around you that you want to talk to them about it and you're kind of apprehensive, send them this video first. Just send it to them. Say, hey, listen to this video. And then after they do, talk to them. And then maybe tell them, well, guess what? I was that 8-year-old kid in the end. Now, anyway, that's all I got for now. I should be back tomorrow probably. Get my energy back, so I'm probably going to start doing more productive things with the day. Instead of being anchored here feeling like a piece of shit. But anyway, share my story at howtohunt.com. That's how you get it in, all right? So get it in, I'll get it shared. Back later.